Welcome back. You're very welcome to part 2 of lesson 2. And we're now going to look at our discussion form, task 1 homework. I'm going to introduce you to the 2017 National Employment Programme for adults with Down syndrome in Ireland. And Beauty in all its forms is a wonderful initiative where persons with Down syndrome are meaningfully engaged in training for hairdressing in mainstream. And I'd like, after you have watched this video and reflected on what you've seen, that you let me know what you think of this initiative and how do you think it benefits the individuals and society as a whole. I hope that you enjoy this. What did you think of that? Did you think that it was interesting to see? Were you aware of such an initiative? How do you think it benefits the people that are involved, both the individuals with Down syndrome and the colleagues that they're working with? Do you think it's a useful initiative? And I believe that it's a person-centered focus look towards disability and inclusive practice. So here then, I'm very interested to see what you think about how the COVID-19 crisis affected the lives of people with intellectual disabilities in Ireland. And this is your discussion forum 2 task. So I'm just going to take you here to the YouTube clip, and it's from the person's perspective. So maybe take some notes on this, please.
Well, COVID it's just strange for everybody right now. But having a disability in normal life, sometimes it's hard, but I don't let it get me down.
I suppose it's really, really frustrating that you're not back in the day service, Christopher, and because nobody is back. None of us is back. Like myself is not back really, because we can't. You see, because of this COVID-19. You see.
It's kind of sad because you're not look forward for getting up in the morning. It's nice to have looking forward for getting up in the morning and waiting for the bus to come to take us to day services.
Mairead, what do you miss most during the lockdown?
Well, I suppose I miss hanging out with my friends, bitterly. I miss sitting beside my friend at love time. I miss talking to my key worker, but I can email him.
My job came to an end. Casa came to an end. It's caring, like Casa socials, like my Special Olympics.
My brother couldn't come here.
My brother couldn't come for my birthday.
I thank you women are half Friday, and I thank you to the day server in RSW.
For people, I know it can be very frightening and worrying for people with disabilities, definitely. You know, because when they don't know where they're going to go and what's going to happen, and you know, because I'm not too bad, but there's a lot of them that are so used to just going out and having their days planned, you know, that I know it's much harder for them.
And how did that make you feel?
Upset, annoyed, anxious, can't see staff, can't see friends.
I really miss all of my friends, and I do talk to them, and I can't wait till it's all over to give them all a big hug.
So I might be getting out of here sometime, but I'm not sure yet to know, because there are some of them problems I was just a bit annoyed about when I was off work, because no help and all like that. And the staff can't come in at the moment, but we just chat at each other at the window sometimes if they call to me, and then I'd often be outside for a while as well.
Lonely and scary and worried. I miss my friends, I miss my family, I miss my loved ones, and especially I miss Limerick, and especially I miss the staff centre and friends.
I like going out and about, but it's hard, very hard. But I'm coping.
The end of March till June the 8th, I didn't leave the house, except to go around the green with the dog. And the dog is also in depression, like the poor dog.
Yeah, it's good there and all like that, because I don't go in the daytime to places, only in the evening where it's more quieter the other way, not done as it is busy during the daytime, most of them places the other way. I don't be near anybody and all like that close by. If I wanted to look at something that somebody else was there first, I'd wait instead and just wait for a while till they're gone. I would just wait and look at something else for a while anywhere if I was wanting to get something.
Well, I have been active. I have been getting out, and staff have stayed in contact with us as well, so we're not too bad that way. And I also used the equipment up in the park for the gym equipment and all that.
Very good.
Yeah.
So you keep them fit and healthy.
I do, yes.
That's good.
I do.
I like sleeping. I get to sleep in.
You get to sleep in.
Yeah.
Everyone sleep in.
Yeah.
Well, I have learned a lot of skills that when you go into the supermarket, you have to wear a mask.
Well, I found it quite hard at times and depressing, you know. Then I found jigsaw, so I'm just making jigsaws, like, and just doing, generally just sitting around, like, because I don't sleep great anyway. But the dreams I'm having this weather is weird.
And how do you feel when you read the news or hear the news about COVID-19?
Well, I'd be quite honest with you. I was nervous at the beginning. I was following the numbers who got it and who passed away for a good while. When I got tired of that, I said, it's going to be on for a long time.
It's nice working with you.
So, isn't it very interesting to see the perspectives? One of the ones that I found the most interesting from the group of people that we were observing there was the lady with the curly bobbed hair, and she was saying, oh my goodness, it's hitting everybody harder than me, sure, I'm grand and all the rest. But towards the end of the video clip, when they were continuing to talk to her, she was saying, I was really depressed. Even the dog was depressed. So sometimes I suppose we put on a brave face, and people with intellectual disabilities also put on a brave face. But we have to look under the surface to see how people are actually coping. And it's the same for ourselves, not to mention if you have additional challenges around an additional disability, be it physical or intellectual. So here then, if we continue on and have a look, how can environmental factors support a person with a disability to enjoy full participation and inclusion in society? And again, I'm going to show you another clip that I think is very valuable. And I want you to think about the person-centered focus on disability. How does Katie's work environment support her inclusion in society, along with the advocacy of her mother? Now, in your roles as SNAs or healthcare workers or AIM support workers, you will have a role of an advocate for the person that you're working with. So it's interesting to see how this clip supports this.
Welcome to Girls Who Change the World by Girl Talk TV. I'm your host, Katie Zapuri. This brand new interview series focuses on interviewing girls and women from across the globe who are making a difference. And I couldn't be more excited for our first guest, 20-year-old model from Northern Ireland, Kate Grant. Now, Kate has been making headlines this week as she was named a face of Benefit Cosmetics, a huge accomplishment. Kate also has Down syndrome, and she is on a mission to use her platform to show the world that different is beautiful. Now, her mom is an absolute world changer as well. Her name is Deidre, and she is going to be joining Kate for this very special interview. We're going to be talking about how Kate got into modeling, some of Kate's experiences thus far, and how she's using her platform to make a difference, the relationship between the mother-daughter power duo, and what they have planned for the future. We're so inspired by the work that they're doing. Kate Grant and Deidre Grant are true examples of girls who change the world. You have been named the face of Benefit Cosmetics, their new roller liner. How does that feel?
It's totally amazing. I never see that coming. Totally outstanding, totally lovely, and I never expected. I was shocked.
What else do you get to do as part of being with Benefit Cosmetics?
We are scheduled to do a photo shoot and a video for their social media. So Kate is known as the wing girl, which is where the eyeliner is extended out to the side of the eye and winged up. So we've teamed with chicken wings, which is the food.
That is probably the dream modeling job.
Very clever, and it's going to be lovely and colourful and exciting.
Very epic.
What has it looked like since this big announcement was made?
My Earthgam keep-up model was totally vile, and the followers got me now this far 33.4k. That's 33,000. So it's totally amazing.
Deidre, you actually had reached out on Facebook way back now to try and make sort of a call for your daughter to have the opportunity to be considered as a model. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
When we realised that she was very serious about it, we supported her and we contacted various agencies, even on a local level. We made telephone calls, but nothing ever came of it. But we just continue on to whatever hurdles we meet to try and overcome them.
There are lots of models out there. Not every model is changing the world. And Kate, that is, in our opinion, what separates you. Why is it so important for you, Kate, to break the mold and to show that Down syndrome doesn't have to hold you back from following your dreams?
For me, inclusion is people who can't have a voice, and I'm giving my voice to Lion. Don't ever give up. Just keep going and follow their dreams.
From day one, she has used her modelling to bring awareness for inclusion with people with special needs and disabilities.
Kate, do you have a favorite quote or words of inspiration that you keep in mind and live by?
Different is beautiful.
That's your quote, isn't it?
That's my quote.
Everyone should be treated equal.
Deidre, to other mothers out there, what advice can you give them about raising a daughter to be confident?
If Kate came out with a negative comment about herself, also I would say change the way you're thinking and change it around to something positive.
I'm just so thankful for the impact you've made on her and therefore the world. And Kate, you keep doing what you're doing. This is just the beginning for you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
So isn't that absolutely wonderful? What a magnificent example of advocacy and setting the world alight with her passion. And all you need is one person to believe in you, no matter what your challenges, and that will support you to get through. So I suppose what I would like you to do in the blog, as I said, in the discussion forum, I would like you to answer, how does Kate's work environment support her inclusion in society along with the advocacy of her mother? Because obviously without her mum, I would think you'd agree that she wouldn't have managed to succeed like she did. So here, when we're looking at the World Health Organization, the use of the term intellectual disabilities in the context of the WHO initiative, Better Health, Better Lives, includes children with autism or on the ASD spectrum who have intellectual impairments. It also encompasses children who have been placed in institutions because of perceived disabilities or family rejection, and who consequently acquire developmental delays and psychological problems. Examples, I suppose, that we could consider around this would be the likes of the Romanian orphanages, where children, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're being fed, they're being watered, they have food, they have clothing, they have heat, but they don't have any stimulation, they don't have an advocate, they don't have a voice, and therefore they're living in miserable conditions. And, you know, it's something to look at. They may have been rejected by their own families because of a disability. So it is worth maybe having a look at the challenges that children and adults with intellectual disabilities can face. And not every country and not every person that has an intellectual disability will be able to access supports. It will very much depend on the country where you are as well. So the definition by the World Health Organization, they have defined intellectual disability as meaning a significantly reduced ability to understand new or complex information and to learn and apply new skills, impaired intelligence. This results in a reduced ability to cope independently, and this results in impaired social functioning and begins before adulthood with a lasting effect on development. Disability depends not only on a child's health conditions or impairments, but also and crucially on the extent to which the environmental factors support the child's full participation and inclusion in society. The use of the term intellectual disability in the context of the World Health Organization initiative, Better Health, Better Lives, includes children with autism who have intellectual impairments. It also encompasses children who have been placed in institutions because of the perceived disabilities, family rejection, and who consequently acquire developmental delays and psychological problems. Moving on to multiple disability. What is meant by multiple disability? Many neurodevelopmental, psychiatric, and medical conditions may co-occur with intellectual disabilities, especially communication disorders, learning disabilities, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and various genetic conditions. Multiple disability. Children assessed with multiple disabilities meet the criteria for 2 or more of the disabilities described in the following slides. Physical disability. Children with a physical disability who have learning difficulties arising from the disability may need resource teaching. Others may need assistive technology only, and some children with severe physical disabilities may have needs for care support from a special needs assistant or a PA. Hearing impairment. Pupils with hearing impairment and no other assessed disability may be allocated a maximum of 4 hours per week teaching support from a resource teacher or from a visiting teacher and resource teacher combined. In cases where a pupil with a hearing impairment meets, in addition, the criterion for another disability category, provision is allocated in keeping with the multiple disabilities as opposed to a single hearing impairment. When we move to visual impairment, pupils with visual impairment and no other assessed disability may be allocated a maximum of 3.5 hours per week teaching support from a resource teacher or from a visiting teacher and resource teacher combined. Some pupils with visual impairment may have needs for care support from a special needs assistant. And in cases where a pupil with visual impairment meets, in addition, the criterion for another disability category, provision is allocated in keeping with multiple disabilities. When we move to emotional disturbance and/or behavior problems, some children in this category may need resource teaching support. Why would that be? If they're acting out in the class, or if they're not engaged or they're misbehaving, remember we spoke about the ABC chart, the antecedent, the behavior, the consequence. So if they're trying to escape the classroom, so the antecedent is something is coming up that they don't want to do, so they disrupt the class with their outburst or behavioral issues, and then the consequence is that they're removed from the class, they may need resource teaching support. Care support from a special needs assistant may be required where a child's behaviour is a danger to himself or others, or where it seriously interferes with the learning opportunities of other children. But we must be mindful of why. Why is the child acting out? What supports might they need? In certain circumstances, some children may require both supports. When we move on then to general learning disability, in this case of mild general learning disability, the pupil's full-scale IQ will have been assessed in the range of 50 to 69. In the case of a moderate general learning disability, the pupil's full-scale IQ score will have been assessed in the range of 35 to 49. In the case of severe, profound general learning disability, the pupil's full-scale IQ score will have been assessed as being below 35. Borderline mild general learning disabilities indicate that the pupil's full-scale IQ score will have been assessed in the range of 70 to 79. The attention of psychologists as part of a multidisciplinary team is directed at the 3 additional criterion in Circular 0802, and in particular, that resource teaching should only be recommended where such pupils are experiencing persistent failure in the ordinary class, in spite of the availability of any other existing learning support available to the child in school. Evidence of persistent failure must be recorded in the psychological report. Moving on to autism and autistic spectrum disorders. In the interest of the child with an autistic spectrum disorder and of those who will teach the child, it is desirable that for a definitive assessment of ASD, a multidisciplinary team should be involved. Such multidisciplinary assessment is also in keeping with the policy of the National Educational Psychology Service, or NEPS as it's called for short. Specific learning disabilities indicate that the pupil's full-scale IQ score will have been assessed within the average range or higher. So the full-scale IQ of 90 or higher. In addition, pupils should have a degree of learning disability specific to basic skills in reading, writing, or maths, which places them at or below the second percentile on suitable standardized norm reference tests, such as Micro-T and Sigma-T. Children with special educational needs arising from an assessed syndrome, generally where there is a general learning disability, require resource teaching support. This will be allocated in line with hours allocated to pupils assessed within the same IQ band. For example, mild general learning difficulty, moderate, severe, or profound. In some cases, as with very young children, or where clear evidence is supplied that the pupil has needs for care support, the support of a special needs assistant may be allocated for some part of each day. Moving on to specific speech and language disorders. In this case, it is a pupil's non-verbal or performance ability, which must be within the average range or above, i.e. non-verbal or performance IQ of 90 or above. The pupil must also have been assessed by a speech and language therapist and found to be at 2 standard deviations or more below the mean, or at a general equivalent level, -2 standard deviations or below a standard score of 70 in one or more of the main areas of speech and language development. 2 assessments, a psychological assessment and a speech and language assessment, are necessary in this case. So we're almost at the end of our session. So I'd like you to get your thinking caps on again to see what information you have retained. So it's a pop quiz. So back to the first section of our lesson 2. In your memory test, can you remember which term is commonly used in which country? And our terms are mental retardation, learning disability, intellectual disability. So our countries are Ireland, the UK, and the United States. So test yourself and see what answers you come up with. Are you ready? Were you correct? In Ireland, it's intellectual disability. In the UK, it's learning disability. And in the United States, it's mental retardation. Now for our next question. Memory test number 2. What does impaired intelligence mean? And what does impaired social functioning mean? Do you remember? I'll give you a moment to write that down. Are you ready to see? Were you correct? Impaired intelligence is the reduced ability to understand new or complex information. And number 2, reduced ability to learn and apply new skills. And impaired social functioning implies the reduced ability to cope independently. Were you correct? Now, can you explain the term intellectual disability by listing the 4 key points? Are we ready? Have you jotted them down? Now let's see if you were correct. Did you recall all 4? The first one is impaired intelligence. The second one is impaired social functioning. Third, it begins before adulthood, so before the age of 18, and it has a lasting impact on development. There is no cure. Were you correct? Meaningful inclusion. Considering the videos that you watched around people being included in society and the challenges that they face, I just want you to recall for yourselves, what types of environmental factors support the meaningful inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities in society? Can you describe a programme that is currently being implemented in Ireland to support the inclusion of individuals with intellectual disabilities in the labour force? If you can't remember, have a look back at slide number 12. And another memory test, what do you understand by the term multiple disability? And you're going to be happy to know that this is the last of the memory tests this evening. What do we understand by the term multiple disability? Multiple disabilities. Children assessed with multiple disabilities meet the criteria for 2 or more disabilities. And you can give examples there yourselves. So your homework for the discussion blog, please consider the questions on slide 12, 13 and 14 after you watch the YouTube clips again. Please reflect on your findings and post your brief replies to task 1, 2 and 3 on the discussion forum. And teacher feedback will be returned on your homework. So a big thank you to you all. It's been a very interesting session. And this evening, we looked at appropriate and inappropriate terminology in the area of disability, including intellectual disability. We looked at the term intellectual and multiple disability. We considered case studies of persons with intellectual disability engaged in inclusive initiatives to enhance their daily lives and the effect of COVID-19 on service users with intellectual disabilities. So we had a very busy session this evening combined with the last Tuesday evenings. And I'm delighted to receive your feedback. Your feedback matters to me. Thank you for your attention this evening. And I would like you to let me know either in the discussion forum or you can pop me an email. Let me know how you found the topics, or we'll discuss it again tomorrow night. And what did you find enjoyable about the sessions this evening? What did you find challenging? And as I said, please feel free at any time to ask me any questions that you may have or pop me an email. Thank you very much. The reference links for this evening's slides are As I Am, Down Syndrome Ireland, National Council for Special Education, and the World Health Organization. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.